And in our governance, what we've found in terms of a robust structure is to establish governance structure where, like Rob was saying, we work in a partnership of the key stakeholders. In our case, the key stakeholders are the buyers and the sellers. So the buyers, the retailers, and the sellers, the producers. And that governance structure is reflected right the way through our whole system of technical committees and so on and so forth. So these are some of the brands that you can recognize, the supermarkets that you shop in every day, and that we buy the majority of our products from. So, these are the sort of major names, and of course there is a very significant globalization of retailing that's taking place. That our outreach is needs to be global, and that we're certifying in more than 100 countries worldwide, which means we deliver about 100,000 certificates every year in those approximate 100 countries. And as part of our model, really, we think we need to engage both with the large producers and the small producers in this, so that we are inclusive in the small-scale producers. In fact, whether they're from the south or, in fact, whether they're from the small alpine farm in Switzerland, because many of the challenges are the same, whether you're a small-scale farmer in Africa or whether you're a small-scale farmer in Switzerland, as I say. The challenges are the same. Obviously, in Switzerland, you have more resources available to you, but as a small farmer, you're faced with implementing standards, which can be quite tough. And one of the ways that we help producers, particularly the smaller ones, is to bring them together into groups. And this can help reduce the cost of compliance and also support the producers in order to get the certificate that they need in order to access the markets. As I mentioned, that what we're aiming to do here is to be an inclusive organisation, to recognise best practice, and one of the ways that we do this is through benchmarking equivalence. And we've established an equivalent standard in China through China Gap, and in the case that I'm just going to briefly describe now in Kenya. As I mentioned, the strength really of the Kenyan model is that it is a public-private sector initiative, bringing together all the various stakeholders to bring their expertise to the party. So government, exporters, farmers, the donor organisations, the technical experts, and the NGOs who can provide technical assistance and training. And together, they are able to help the small-scale farmer interpret these international standards so that they can, again, get acceptance into global markets. So what are the perception of benefits? And this was some work done in Kenya, really, about what is the benefit of having these private sector standards? Well, one of them, as you can see, increased knowledge of chemical usage, good bargaining power with exporters, increased quality production and reduction of rejects. A very big one, in fact, was increased prices and timely payment. Now, although we don't advertise that we offer a premium through Global Gap, many of the retailers, of course, have long-term contracts and agreements with their producers. And over time, this is worth a lot to the producers in terms of consistency of business. Another big advantage was the prevention of worker accidents and improvements in worker safety and improvements in health, particularly with the Global Gap standard requiring protective clothing. And also, probably one of the largest benefits of having a private sector standard in Kenya is that the producers have a much better access to global markets, a little bit like a passport. So very much the standard facilitating trade and helping to build the market for these horticultural products, the high-value horticultural products, small beans, even flowers and so on and so forth. So in the Kenya case, the smallholder income now is the highest ever recorded. That our group certification actually can help bring down the cost of compliance. that they're actually saving money on inputs like pesticides, that, saving up to 40% of the costs on pesticides. But nevertheless, to achieve this, of course, I don't underestimate the fact that to improve standards, you need good training and good extension services. And this does require public and private investment to improve standards. So, in summary, really, what can private sector standards do? Well, look at what the World Bank has got to say. It says essentially that, we've lost the power there. If we could go to the last slide. But anyway, what the World Bank is saying is that stricter standards can provide a stimulus for investments in supply chain modernization, provide increased incentives for the adoption of better safety and quality control practices in agriculture and food manufacturing, and help clarify the appropriate and necessary roles of government in food safety and agricultural health management. So rather than degrading the comparative advantage of developing countries, the compliance process can result in new forms of competitive advantage and contribute to more sustainable and profitable trade over the long term. I said that my take-home message really is that all of us in this room, the public and the private sector and civil society, need to work together on standards in the future to improve food control, to improve food quality, and to improve market access for the large and the small-scale producer. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Nigel, and thanks for giving a very practical way of how a compliance-led approach through partnerships can actually help provide a solution here. We've heard some excellent comments from the panelists. I think it's now time to hear from you. This is going to be a very interactive session, and I'm going to ask for about 5 or 6 questions initially, and then we'll summarize them up and present them to the panel. But aside from questions, if any of you would like to share any learnings, and please keep them short, but if you'd like to share any learnings around your own experience with this market, then please take this opportunity. I think we have mics in the audience, so any questions or anyone want to share an experience? Here, up the front here.
Hello, Ricardo Estrada from Ecuador. Actually, a couple of questions to Rob and to Nigel, basically. How do you think that we as trade promotion organizations or business support organizations can assist Global Gap and Fair Trade to promote their labels or certifications or standards within our own countries? And that question has to do with the new change of realities that Corpay will suffer in the future, and that we will have to be generating 100% of our income. And one of the things that we were thinking about was promoting different standards and assisting the business community to reach those standards. So one way to do it was to try to work, for example, with like what Global Gap did with Mexico, in which they tried to make the equivalent of Mexico Calidad Suprema. We got that example, and we were working on a certification for Ecuador, and that's one thing that I wanted to get across. I didn't know you were going to be here, but the idea was that to see if we can be a promoter of your certification, which will I think will assist you and also us and the business community.
Thank you. Other questions? At the back there? And then a third question over here.
I'm Mamun from Bangladesh. Actually, I want to put some point on certification and standards things also. As we know, these are all required for being global and sustainable in the international market. But country like us, actually, we, by doing these things, added cost to the business. And private entrepreneur, how they will make up this thing with their business. So they can be global.